Well, when you die, I'm going to write on your tombstone, I do not regret my decision. Hashtag canned haggis. Welcome. He's great.
He's grim. And today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about, technically, whatever the heck we want. But in particular, we love games, movies, books. Oh, we love our comics and others.
Yeah, so tell me, what have you been up to today?
Today, well, I have been playing a ton of Mass Effect because I freaking love that game. And I'm so glad they had a re-release.
Yeah, I personally adore that series myself. Now, the one thing that I do want to know, because I haven't played it yet, this remaster, how have they changed the combat in Mass Effect 1? Because I heard that was a big thing that they were going to do, is they were revamping the combat because everyone just liked it.
The main thing I really noticed is that the cursor is not going all over the place when you're aiming, so you can actually snipe. So that's pretty nice. Actually being able to shoot what you're trying to click on. Yeah, that was the main thing. Love it, though. Like, biotics, any option where I get to be psychic and throw people around, I'm always going to pick that. So I've been an adept the whole way through, just throwing bad guys left and right, hating on my crew as you do, making
you can't
friends.
hate on the crew.
No, not hate on, hit on.
Oh, that sounds
romantic
way better. Yes.
interest.
How can you have romantic interest when they've taken out all of Miranda's butt shots?
I don't give a damn. Like, who really buys a game like that for butt shots? I don't know. I've never been...
I'm sure there's someone out there.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be people. Like, there is a mod to put them back in, but
that
really?
Doesn't surprise me. I mean, I'm glad the mods are there. If there's something that's lacking in this game for you that is improved by mods, go wild. But yeah, I don't think that losing the butts was a huge fiasco on any front.
Yeah, like, honestly, if that's really something you care about, having a mod for it, great. But you can look at the characters' butts outside of cutscenes if you really care about that.
Well, I mean, we just determined that sniping is way easier, so just zoom in
true.
on there yourself.
It's not going to jump all over the place.
Exactly.
But
now,
no,
I personally have never played 3.
You've never played 3? Oh
yeah,
my god.
I never played 3.
You never beat the whole trilogy? That was the whole thing it was leading up to.
I didn't. Okay, so quick story time. So back when the third game first released, I was in university, and I didn't do pre-orders or anything like that. So I went to my local EB Games, which was the only store you could buy games near me, and where they upcharged you with at least $5 on MSRP, which was great. And Mass Effect 3 did something I really disliked, which was all the rage at the time, which was they sold the game with pre-made DLC.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, when you went up there to buy the game, you had your base game for $65. You had the deluxe edition, which was $75, but it came with the DLC that gave you the Prothean crew member. And then you had your ridiculous, super extra one, which was more money than God.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when I went to buy it, the DLC that came with the Prothean crew member was completely sold out. And at the time, I believe this was still when Xbox Marketplace was really dumb, and you had to spend money to then get your Microsoft points or whatever to then buy DLC in-game. And I just didn't want to deal with that. So I put it on the shelf, and I was like, I'll come back to it later when I get around to it. And then I never did. And then everyone got upset with the endings, and I was like, okay, I'll just wait. And then again, I never picked it up.
Yeah, well,
so
don't you miss physical hardware? Having to actually buy your game in person?
So, other sidebar really quick.
Uh-huh.
Over the years, I have tried to buy it on the Origin store. Now, it's better now. You can literally just buy the whole thing, no problem. But back when I used to check, the Origin store was still using... I don't think they were using BioWare points. But when I went to go look to buy the games itself, you were not able to check to see how much DLC and such cost.
Wait, you couldn't check?
The old search function on their site had it so you could find the game, but it wouldn't tell you how much any of the DLC cost or anything like that. So I constantly would check and get annoyed and put it to the side. And again, it was just a fiasco. So the fact that they've done this re-release is great for me, because I can finally just buy and play the entire trilogy all the way through.
Great. Yeah, actually, having a bunch of hidden costs really just sounds like an EA thing to do, so I'm not really surprised.
Yeah, it was a fiasco, but tell me more about this hitting on crew members. Who have you gone for so far in the first and second? And I guess are you done the third yet, or are you still playing
I'm still playing it. So this one, Liara has been my go-to this time.
Liara. Wow.
Liara, yeah. It's nice to be blue. The real problem is you can't really romance her in the second one, because she's only there as part of DLC, and you just sort of say, hey, Liara, still like you. And she says, all right, cool. Let's have a fade to black scene in your room. That's pretty much all you get, which is fine. The relationship's still going. Still a great character. But, not much more happens than that. The DLC really impacted the series as a whole, just splitting up all that vital.
Lair of the Shadow Broker?
Yeah, exactly. Where, I'm going to spoil this. She kills the Shadow Broker and becomes the new Shadow Broker. Ooh.
Does that affect 3 in any way?
It probably does in a bunch of small ways, but not the overall story.
Oh, okay. Because, I do recall that in Mass Effect 3, you start off essentially in prison.
Yeah.
Where, as in, like, you're being charged for something. That happens in one of the previous DLCs in, I believe, Mass Effect 2.
Yeah.
Where you end up, you blow up a mass relay in the DLC.
Which I thought was hilarious.
Well, it's hilarious in the fact that if you're someone who, again, didn't want to deal with all that BioWare point, Microsoft Store point crap for DLC, you had no clue what was going on and what you were being charged with.
Yeah.
It's like, you're a mass murderer who potentially killed millions. You're like, what did I do? I'm just trying to stop the Reapers. I'm sorry.
I swear. Yeah, it's I think it's the DLC issue was a huge problem for the game. Just splitting up all these kind of essential parts of the story, and like it depended on what you did before. Like the whole draw of the Mass Effect series was that you could bring back the decisions and the characters who didn't die or did die and the consequences of that from the previous game. So it really made it into this giant epic. And then if there's something you missed because it was DLC, that's a huge screw you from the developers.
I guess minus Mass Effect 2, because as everyone knows, the story of Mass Effect 2 doesn't matter at all and makes no sense.
Which part doesn't make sense?
Well, essentially all of it, in the fact that none of the decisions that you make ended up having any sort of purpose to them in the grand scheme of things, because at the end of Mass Effect 1, the Reaper, what's his name, Overlord, over something?
Sovereign?
I can't remember.
No, he died in the first.
Yeah, Sovereign. Yeah, Sovereign is at the end of Mass Effect 1, you kill Sovereign, and it's like, look, the Reapers are here, we need to find out how to stop them. And then the start of Mass Effect 2 is like, okay, so we need to stop the Reapers, but then, spoilers, you die and come back to life, and then the Elusive Man is like, hey, there's this race of things that are kidnapping colonists. Go stop them. And then, you go do that, and it's like, oh, it turns out these are the old Protheans who are now working for the Reapers, blah, 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 and you pretty much stop that, and it's like, look, they were building a miniature Reaper. And at the end of Mass Effect 2, it's like, okay, now I need to go out and figure out how to stop the Reapers. It's like, that was the whole point of this game. The whole point of Mass Effect 2 was to figure out how to stop the Reapers.
Well, you figured out how to slow them down by blowing up that one solar system.
Which is then immediately becomes irrelevant. I mean, that's again, true. DLC, right? DLC blowing up the Mass Relay, not at the actual game itself. I never played the DLC. And then Mass Effect 3 starts, and it's like, hey, look, the Reapers are here. And it's like, so we didn't learn how to try to stop them.
Yeah.
We didn't learn really much anything. And then Mass Effect 3 shows up and is like, okay, now we need to learn how to stop the Reapers and defeat them in the same game. And so it's like, I mean, there's a really good video by, I want to say, Bob Case. I can't remember exactly. It was on YouTube all the rage years ago. And it's essentially just like, what is the point of Mass Effect 2? And the answer is the story is a bunch of nonsensical garbage that doesn't do anything. But nobody cares because everybody just loves recruiting crew members and doing their loyalty missions. Which is honestly, that's all I want to do as well. But it's
the whole point of the game is just hanging out with the crew, hitting on whoever you want, or maybe several people at once. Because I usually pick the nice routes because I'm a paragon for life for whatever reason. and just
Yeah, I'm
I
also
accidentally
Paragon.
hit on everyone when I'm talking to them.
That's one thing I will say with BioWare in general that kind of upsets me, in the fact that, like, you want to go in to steal the weeb language, you want to get your waifu or what have you, but the problem is that you don't want to be mean to your other crew members either. You're like, I want us all to work together. So then you start talking to them and doing all their stuff, and it's like, I like you, and you're like, well, sorry, no. Like, I kind of push them to the side, like, I like you too, but maybe next playthrough. Because the big problem was in the original Dragon Age. You know,
Yeah.
I was playing through and I was nice to everybody. And then I can't remember his name. Starts with like a Z. Zaid or whatever. Or Zaid. I can't remember. He was
Let's
the
go
elf.
with that.
And,
Okay.
and yeah, so you're just nice to everyone. And so I was nice to him and doing his stuff. And then he's like, I like you. And I was like, not this time, dude. Sorry. But then when you turn them down, you get a huge, like, relationship hit. And he's just like, oh, like, I'm sorry. I'm doing Morgan right now.
I wasn't trying to come off that way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, oh, next playthrough, I swear I'll get to you. Just don't hate me now.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. So you're saying it's still fun?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Still fun. Like it really is the characters that brings the game to life, and the combat is great after one. Like it really gets polished every game. Like even Andromeda
was still
was
not great.
Even better. One, they were figuring it out. So,
well, because I remember hearing, because initially when I played, because I played one and I played it through it God knows how many times, I just essentially, well, I didn't break the game because my weapons weren't overpowered, but this was back when you could essentially shoot your gun forever without it ever overheating. So I got the maximum, like, frictionless resources or whatever, and I could just hold down the trigger and my gun would never overheat.
Yeah,
so
but you played the game as like Space Call of Duty, didn't you? Like without the powers and all that sort of stuff?
I mean, the first one I've played is everything. I played that game a bunch, but and so it doesn't matter what your class was. If you get the frictionless resources number 4 or whatever number it was, regardless of what class you are, if you put that on your gun, you can shoot forever.
Yeah.
And all I remember hearing is when they were leading up to the re-release, they said that they were going to revamp the combat in 1 to make it more in tune with 2 and 3, because 2 is where a lot of people picked it up because the gunplay became so good, because 1 was kind of bleh, let's be honest. So I was just wondering if in 1 they did actually improve it in any meaningful way.
As far as I remember, the main difference is that you don't have the cursor going all over the place. Like, you can actually aim where you're trying to aim. Apart from that, psychic powers are fun. You just throw people around and warp them to hell. It's great.
Nice.
Yeah, psychic powers. Would recommend.
Well, I'll take that under advisement.
As you should.
On the other hand, I've been playing an older game.
Which one?
Good old Dead Space 2.
Oh, that's a good older game.
I know.
Actually, didn't that come out a similar time as Mass Effect?
I believe, so I think that Dead Space 1 came out maybe maybe the same year or a year or two before Mass Effect 2.
Okay.
So Mass Effect came out first, and then Dead Space came out a couple years later. Dead Space 2 might have been a couple years after Dead Space 1, I'm not sure.
Sounds right.
Yeah, but prior to this, I'd played Dead Space 1, obviously, and then I played Dead Space 3, but I'd never actually played 2.
How did that happen?
Well, so I played 1 a lot. I played it to such a degree that I went through the entire game on, like, the hardest difficulty and all that, and it was a lot of fun, but then I was in, like, a transitory period from going from console to PC, so I never really got around when Dead Space 2 came out, and then I got Dead Space 3 for free with PS Plus, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago, so I played through it, and I was like, wow, this sucks. I do not like Dead Space 3 at all.
Well, wasn't it not scary at all? That's all I remember hearing about it.
Well, the thing with Dead Space, and I mean most horror games, and I'm not the first one to say this, is that solitude makes things scarier. When you're walking through somewhere by yourself, and you're like, oh god, what's that noise? What's happening? You know, it's really scary. Unfortunately, Dead Space 3, because they wanted to push co-op, had you with a helper the whole time. Even if you're playing solo, you still had the AI companion kind of there. Or I think he was there. Honestly, I can't remember. He was there in cutscenes. He might not have been in their gameplay, but the point is that so then they made in Dead Space 3 a bunch of sections where you can only play that section if you're in co-op with someone else, which I wasn't. And so it became very much more shooter focused and a lot less, claustrophobic horror focused. So it just kind of didn't feel good.
Okay.
But the thing is that Dead Space 2, everyone had said it was great, and I finally picked it up on sale. Dead Space 2 is what sequels should aspire to be. It's taking everything great from the first game and then improving upon it to make an amazing second game. Because the first Dead Space, I don't remember if you've played it or not.
I have, but it's been so many years I barely remember anything. I just remember stomping on everything, and then there's a big twist at the end. Similar to, ooh, it was all in your head. It wasn't real.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of that. But yeah, because the problem that I had with Dead Space 1 is that you kind of got into, like a pattern. So you'd enter a room, and as soon as you enter that room and you saw that the vents were on the wall, you're like, okay, I'm going to try to move to the door. It's going to go into lockdown, and then I'm going to have to fight a bunch of dudes in the room, kill them all, and then move on. And then you go through, a tight corridor, and then you get to another room, and it's like, oh, going to have to, get another arena fight here.
Yeah.
Dead Space 2 does away with all that. Like, in Dead Space 2, there are a few of those rooms, but overall, you can, if you want, you can literally run away from enemies. I mean, it doesn't always work because some doors are really slow at opening, but you can if you want. And so there's a lot more, diversity and, okay, here's the corridor section. Now you're in this really big room. Now you're going to, anti-grav through. And it's just overall a much smoother, better experience. The gunplay is great. The enemies are great. It's just tons of fun all around. Yeah. And also they got rid of the, the turret section. There was a turret section in Dead Space 1 and it was horrible.
Oh, yeah, when you were just sitting in a turret and things were coming at you and you just shot them.
Shooting. Yeah, and shooting the asteroids.
Very scary, yeah.
Yeah, it was just tedious and no one liked it, and they got rid of that and it's great. And then they even pull a bit of a Resident Evil 4 at the end. I can't remember what they were called, but those enemies that pretty much are invincible, and so you need the thermal scope.
Regenerators?
The little parasites. Yeah, the regenerators.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of Dead Space 2, you pretty much get a regenerator, but you can't kill it. And so I'm sure there's a proper way to do it where, you slow it down, shoot off its limbs so it has to regenerate them, and then you kill all the enemies around you. I was just like, nope. So I just started running, and you have the creatures that run on their hands with the spikes for their tail, charging after me, and then that thing starts charging after you as well. So I'm constantly just trying to throw slows at it and shoot its legs off, and then I'm trying to run around all these enemies, and it's just this hectic run and gun for the final segment. And I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is what you want to be part of.
Yeah, you want to be afraid and trying to escape as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anyone has never played this, over 10-year-old game, I assume Dead Space 2 is where it should be.
I mean, it starts off on a great note. You're strapped down, people think you're insane, you're trying to convince them you're not, and then monster bursts in and starts transforming in front of your eyes, and it's about to kill you, and it's super frantic. That's the main thing I remember. That and the needle scene. Those two.
Everyone knows the needle scene.
You're not going to forget that one anytime soon. Yeah,
no.
That was
though I will say,
harrowing.
I'm quite bad at figuring out where the game wants you to go with that initial scene.
Yeah.
So the old saying is, and this was Valve when Valve playtests their games like crazy, that gamers don't look up, which is why they had a lot of trouble anytime, trying to get Alex to, climb the walls to make it really apparent, hey, I'm going up here, look up here. So when you're in that straitjacket and you first gain control of your character, you run into a hallway and there's monsters coming after you, and you want to veer left or right. Now, I went right because I'm an idiot. So another monster pops up on the right, and so I try to run through him, and there's two glass doors. And a pillar in between. So there's the left glass door that you can, and all the glass is shattered. So there's the left path and the right. So I went the right path, and they have a kill field there, I swear, because nothing hits me. But as soon as I run past down that right path, and both paths lead to the exact same room. And as soon as I run through there, I just auto die. I was like, oh, did a monster get me? So I started up again, that same right path.
It's just a heart attack.
Auto die. Yeah, and I just auto die. And what is going on here? Now, in my, peanut brain, I hadn't realized that there was a left path. I have, tunnel visioned only on that one right path. So this is 30 seconds
You made a
into
decision,
the game.
and you're sticking with it.
Yeah, this is 30 seconds of the game, and I can't figure out how to get out of this first room. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try the right path again. So I die again. I'm like, what has happened here? I'm in a straitjacket. I can't attack anything. I'm told to run for my life. Like, what's going on? Finally, I turn my, camera like 10 degrees to the left. I'm like, oh, there's a doorway there as well. Let's try that side. Works perfectly. And then I realized, yeah, I'm an idiot. Thanks, game.
But you managed to make it through the entire game.
I did. And then I also died on the final boss because I'm also an idiot.
Well, it's a video game. You're supposed to die, right?
Well, like, so your wife appears to you, and she wants the marker. She wants the marker to consume you. So essentially, the way this boss fight works, you shoot your wife. She disappears. A bunch of like enemy fictional creatures spawn at you, but also the big marker eye appears like on the other side of the map.
Mm-hmm.
And you're supposed to shoot that eye, and then she comes back and repeat until dead. Again, peanut brain. Didn't realize that the eye was actually important in each single way. So I was just running in a circle constantly shooting my wife and having her disappear for like 10 minutes until I finally died. And I was like, what am I doing wrong here? Like,
come on, Zelda rules. Always shoot the eye if there is one that appears.
So after a couple more deaths, I finally realized, oh wait, what's this giant floating yellow eye that is taking up my entire screen? Maybe I should attack that when it appears. And yeah, it turns out that's what you need to do.
I mean, at a certain point you think it's just part of the skybox, so I get it. But yeah, shoot the eye. Yeah. Always shoot the eye.
Yeah, so there we go. I managed to successfully complete Dead Space 2, so I've beaten the trilogy. And if you were to ask me what the full plot is, I can't remember. All I remember is that I think there's some creature in the moon in number 3 somewhere.
All right, sure, why not? All I remember is shoot the limbs, not the head, and burn dead bodies, I guess.
Yeah, and that the plasma cutter is overpowered and it's the only weapon you'll ever need.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's literally all I used, is I only upgraded that single weapon and then I just spent everything else on ammo.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
Yeah, so tell me, have you managed to see any movies recently?
Well, tell me, how do you feel about Nicolas Cage? Are you pro or against Nicky Cage?
I mean, I've personally always liked Nicolas Cage. I mean, back from his semi-serious roles to his ridiculous roles, though I haven't seen any of his new stuff, but I've heard it's quite wild.
So there's 2 of his movies I've seen kind of recently. The first was... The Color from Outer Space. It's a Lovecraft book.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I think it's The Color of Space. I've read the story. I've also read the manga of it, but I haven't seen that movie. I saw it on Netflix, and I was like, oh, I should watch that, and I never got around to it.
The Color Out of Space. That's what it's called. It was actually really good. I really liked it. It's got a little bit of body horror in there. It's got what's his name from Cheech and Chong? One of the two. In there, just randomly in the woods, playing himself. Yeah, one of the two. Yeah. Doesn't matter, they're interchangeable. Is one of them dead? I don't know. I'm not the person to ask about that. But it's got Nicolas Cage going insane, and, that's a role he does really well, for good and for worse. So
that's all he does is go crazy pretty much nowadays. But have you read the story? Like
I have. Yeah.
Okay, so how faithful is it to the original story?
I mean, it's not set in the same time period, so some things are going to change, and electronics are not going to work.
Is it modern day?
Yeah.
Oh, and is he still like a farmer?
He is.
In, like the middle of nowhere?
Pretty much, yeah. And they have alpacas, I think it was.
Oh, does the asteroid land in the well still?
It sure does.
Okay, so yeah, it seems like it's pretty much the exact same story.
Yeah, like they definitely added a bunch of things and drew it out, because it was actually one of his shorter stories as well.
Yeah.
But the stuff they added, I really like. Like, I love body horror thing, The Thing. Like, that's a fantastic movie. It's got a bunch of practical effects. It's got super creepy shit coming out of the barn. Loved it. But another Nicolas Cage movie I saw very recently was Wally's Wonderland. And that's basically Five Nights at Freddy's, but what if it was Nick Cage who was locked in and he was a badass?
Oh, God.
That is the plot.
So are they like animatronics that are coming to life, or are they, is it supernatural? What's causing these creatures to come and attack them?
I mean, the story was basically a bunch of demon worshippers, serial killers, did ritual suicide, and their souls went into these animatronics where they started killing people and killing kids. And instead of shooting them or whatever, the townspeople decided, okay, we'll probably die if we try and deal with this. So how about we just send vagrants or people that get lost to this Wally's Wonderland and just let them get killed a few times a year. Just appease the serial killer animatronics. And
they never considered potentially just burning it down?
No, that'd be too hard. That might just make them angry, and they take it out on the village, and you don't want to do that.
No, that's crazy.
No, absolutely not. So Nick Cage gets stranded in here because some thoughtless person put some spikes on the road while he was driving through, and he doesn't have enough money to fix his car. And so they say, okay, you can work it off. You can just clean up this children's play place that's been shut down for a few years, and we're trying to get back into business. And just do that overnight, and we'll pay you $1,000, which is not suspicious at all.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a great idea in this town in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and fun little addition to all this, Nick Cage doesn't say a single word the entire film.
So does he just make, like, really awesome facial expressions?
He sure does.
Angst.
He is very surly.
Oh my gosh.
As he goes through the place, he finds this pinball machine at the back, and so he takes it upon himself to try and fix this throughout the film, and just try and get as high a score as he can, because that's what he cares about. What he does not care about is animatronics attacking him. He does not give a flying fuck. He just deals with them.
So an animatronic is charging at him, he just kind of like kicks it in the side and is like, no, let me get my high score first, then I'll come deal with you.
Pretty much. Like an ostrich pecks at his face and he just rips out its spine, as you do.
Oh, so these... Is it like an animatronic spine, or is it like...
Animatronic.
Some creepy... Okay, so it's not like some weird organic amalgamation where it's just like blood everywhere.
Well, it's like black goo inside it, so oil or whatever.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, that's what it is. It's just oil, guys, don't worry. Pfft. Satanic rituals. No, just oil.
Yeah, and Wally is the weasel, because that just makes sense. Alliteration, that's what you want for all your animatronics. Oh, and he is, of course, the final boss. I'm pretty much spoiling the whole film at this point. There's a bunch of horny teenagers involved as well, because it's a horror film. You gotta have that.
Wait, so what are they doing? Are they just like sneaking into the creepy place to get it on?
They were planning on burning the place, because that's actually a pretty good idea, right?
Yeah.
Some people have good ideas. But then they see there's a guy in there working. They try to get him out, and he's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I've got a job to do, which he doesn't say. He's got very
which he portrays through just staring at them. Yeah,
they say, come out, and he glares at them and goes back to work.
Oh, good. Not even like the bro nod, the bro shake?
No, he is dedicated to his job. He made a pact, and he's going to see it through.
I care about my car so much, you can't get me out of this Wally's world.
And yeah, ultimately, it's not what I would call a good movie, but I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's what you put on, late at night with some beer and some Doritos.
Absolutely. Yes, like, for instance, The Room. What are your feelings towards The Room, the movie I forced you to see years ago?
Yeah, I mean... I'll be honest, it's not a movie that I particularly go to rewatch very often, but it's a movie that you need to experience at least once.
Absolutely.
Of course, the people who haven't watched this movie are going to be like, oh yeah, it's another one of those movies where everyone says, you need to at least see it. And so, your expectations are so high that when you do watch it, you're like, this is stupid and I hate it. But if you're just someone who's like, oh, you know what, I'll see what this is about, and you start watching it like, this is ridiculous craziness, but it's also a movie you need to watch with someone else. You can just yell at the screen about how stupid it is.
I've seen it like 4 or 5 times at this point, pretty much just because I forced someone else to watch it. And it is my favorite terrible movie. It is so bad, it's good. Tommy Wiseau is, he is an alien.
Okay. Here I was expecting you to say he's a character. No, we're beyond that. He's an alien. He's not.
He is someone pretending to be human and doing his best, but not quite getting there. And he sort of leaned into that persona over the years. Like he did have a YouTube channel at one point as well.
He did. I didn't know that. He
played video games, as you do.
Oh God. And
that's what everyone
likes.
Video games
while listening to human music?
No, he's mostly just swearing at whatever's happening on screen. Like he does an intro where he's like, "Oh no, I have been abducted by aliens and they're forcing me to play video games." Ah.
So pretty much just going home for him then.
Yeah, pretty much. Like he's playing it up, but he's a weird guy. And that is part of the charm of what makes the movie so great, where you have Tommy Wiseau playing Johnny, this poor guy who is just the greatest person. The whole community loves him. He's a really doting boyfriend, but the world is unjust and people cheat. And how could you cheat on such a wonderful guy who is so successful and wonderful? And you know what? Might as well throw in a few sex scenes in there. If
the world set out to get you, may as well enjoy something.
Yeah, absolutely. Throw in a few sex scenes where you're the star, and then the lead actress refuses to film more than one, so you just play the same sex scene a few times.
Well, if Mass Effect has taught us anything...
Has it?
Yeah, that's literally Mass Effect, The world sucks and is out to kill you, and get it on with your coworkers, and they only replay the same sex scene every single time. It's not in the budget for multiple ones. Come on.
No, come on. No, it's all about the characters, man, not just the sex scene.
Yeah, it's all about Tommy Wiseau being Johnny, playing football with the boys.
That is his understanding of male bonding in America. Just tossing a football around, laughing, chatting about your respective sex lives. Yeah.
That's all I do.
Yeah, so. Of course. Yeah. Just toss a pigskin around. That's how you bond. Yeah, and how about you? Have you watched any cool movies recently? Anything of note?
I've watched maybe the biggest movie that has ever hit this year, which is Dune.
Dune? Never heard of it. Tell me more.
No? Well, I don't know if you know this, but way back in the day, before I was born, a man named Frank Herbert wrote a book, which then became a cult hit. And can you call it a cult hit anymore? It's the biggest thing known to man, I guess, in sci-fi.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you could still call it a cult hit, even though it has that huge following and it's a huge blockbuster.
Yeah, well, the point is that I've never read it. So I was like, you know what, I'll go in on this. And I watched the 1984 Dune in order to, have an idea of what was going to happen. And that was a mistake because it's a confusing mess of God knows what, and it is not a good movie. And if you love ASMR, go watch the 1984 Dune.
A lot of whispering, a lot of, hey guys,
yeah, so
gonna get the spice.
Well, no, it's not even whispering. It's I don't know the story behind any of the production on that, but from what I've heard online, in the books there's a lot of monologuing, internal monologuing about, oh, this is what I'm thinking about this, because it's a very cerebral book, a lot of philosophy and ideas. And so that got fixed in the 1984 Dune by just having everybody whisper when they're thinking about something.
That's a creative way around it, I guess.
Yeah, so if you love listening to over 2 hours of people just whispering into a microphone to denote them thinking about stuff, go see that. And if you want to watch a real movie, go see this year's Dune, which is part 1.
I get some of the complaints about the film, how, for one, I didn't know it was the first of 2 films.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And only, it very briefly at the beginning, it's part 1.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, well, I guess.
And then it's what, 2.5 hours, 3 hours?
Yeah.
It's long.
Okay, I'm going to say something, which, well, it depends on how well part 2 turns out. But so far, I would say that Dune is this decade's Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
but that's just on part. Now, a lot of people will say, like, oh, nothing happened in this movie, which isn't entirely fair. But there's a lot of, I'm walking in the desert. I'm going back into the desert.
Desert
now I'm
power.
with the Fremen in the desert. But at the same time, like, depending on how the second part ends, and if it tells a full, complete story, I feel like it will just, raise in the ranks for everything, so that people will want to rewatch it, knowing that the ending, is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because when I first, started watching Lord of the Rings as a child, my favorite ones were either the Two Towers or Return of the King, right? I like those really big, epic battles. I was like, oh yeah, the rising music, the big crescendos, the big clashes of armies. I was like, this is great. But then as I got, older and I, watched those two movies more and more, I appreciated the Fellowship. And that one started, becoming my favorite one just because, that's the start. That's the first buildup of, getting the group together, starting their journey. And it's a slower movie, not as exciting. You don't really get, the Mines of Moria for big, exciting battles. But you appreciate that slow build.
Yeah.
And I think that depending on how part 2 turns out, people will look back more favorably on part 1, being like, yeah, I like that slow build because it goes somewhere worthwhile. The only downside, okay, if I have there's two things that I do not like about this movie. And one of them is, well, they're both obviously personal opinion. One of them I feel is more fair than the other. But the first is, I do not like Zendaya.
Okay.
She works in Spider-Man.
Yeah, I thought she's great in that role.
Yeah, because she's very good as the quirky person. The problem is that, again, I haven't read the books, but I don't know who. I think the character's name is Chani. Now, she's the love interest of Paul, who's our main protagonist. And
Could I just make a note of how odd it is where you have this grand space epic and the protagonist's name is Paul?
I mean, there's literally a character named Duncan Idaho.
I love that name.
Come on. But yeah, and so it's this really awkward situation because I don't know how she is in the books, but here you just get her in a lot of flashbacks, not flashbacks, but you get her in visions of things that will come to pass, with her walking all ominously, prophetic visions. And then every time you see her surrounded by Fremen, it's these old, grizzled, 40, 50-year-old men. Yep. And then her, who's this, baby-faced 16-year-old. And so when she first, talks to Paul, she's like, hello, baby boy. I wouldn't let you hurt my friends. And I'm like, you are the biggest baby-looking person here at all. How? So I feel like she's just really out of place, miscast. There's no emotion, but at the same time, she doesn't have much screen time where she does anything of note, so maybe in part 2 she'll be better, but just here, not a fan.
Yeah.
And then the second thing this is a personal problem that I have with the score.
Okay.
Did you ever see Zack Snyder's Justice League cut?
I did not. That's the 4-hour version?
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. However, I didn't live under a rock, and you can find it on YouTube. Zack Snyder, every single time Wonder Woman comes on screen or does anything, he puts in this bombastic Amazon score where it's just a bunch of chanting.
Was that the desert music thing that would show up every time she was on screen?
Yeah. So
I saw just
that. Really weird points in the story when it shouldn't really. Nothing exciting's happened. I think as Hans Zimmer would put in that score, he made the score, and then whoever did the editing threw it in where it was and I was like, okay, dude, I can't unhear this from the Snyder Cut thing. Please stop. I don't like it. And no, it just kept going. And they had the Imperial ecologist or whatever, when she gets stabbed through the chest, and rolls down the dune slowly. It plays as well, and I'm like, okay, goodbye, lady, you are dead.
I mean, they're in a desert, and how else are you going to make sure the audience knows that they're in a desert than have the desert singing, as has been established over 60 years of cinema?
I will say the one thing that I actually really do appreciate, so this movie, I don't know if it's PG-13, there's no blood, no gore, it's really tame, I guess, for the broadest audience possible. Of
course.
And so that's kind of annoying, especially, when you're having those big fights, because they're just not really satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that what is really nice is that when that ecologist gets stabbed, you don't get a spurt of blood. you get a spurt of water.
It was a nice
which
touch.
Which to the Fremen is the most important thing for them. Like, it's more important than life.
Yeah.
Well, it is life. Water is life. Which is why when Paul and his mother come across the Fremen, they're just like, don't run, you'll waste the precious water. So I really like that touch where instead of, the blood spurting out where you get stabbed through the chest, it's just like, nope, there's my water.
Yeah, I thought they had some good stylistic choices where instead of blood, like when fighting with the shields, it would show red when a knife was going through it. So it lets you know they're getting stabbed, but it's not showing anything gory, so they could let the kids watch as well. And I can't imagine a ton of kids are really going to love that film. It doesn't seem aimed at that kind of audience. What kid is going to watch 3 hours of slow-paced, thoughtful religious commentary versus, well, it's not as much commentary as the books, but it is way too slow-paced for most younger audiences, I would say.
Exactly. There's no 10 or 12-year-old who's going to sit there being like, oh, yes, I am enthralled.
Yeah.
Give me this philosophy. I love it. No. Well, okay, I'm sure there's one 10 or 12-year-old who's like, yes, this is my jam. But I'm like,
absolutely.
You are an outlier. You do not get to be here. I'm sorry.
But I feel like that sort of kid could handle a bit of gore here and there. But
you think that too. But the one thing is that I really do hope that if this movie does take off, that just like the Lord of the Rings movies, they release, a 3.5 hour director's cut. Because I'd probably watch it.
Yeah, I want to see all the little things. I want to have random songs in the background. I want to see the equivalent of Merry and Pippin drinking random tree sap and getting taller.
Oh God, yeah.
I want to see the nervous system, axe embedment, those funny little things that never quite made it to the theatrical cut.
Yeah, Aragorn eating terrible soup.
Which,
spoiler alert, if you do actually freeze frame on the spoon when it's in the bowl, there's a hair on it.
Oh, that's gross. A good touch.
Yeah. Well, I honestly don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it's gross.
Wait, was the Gimli and Legolas drinking scene, was that in the theatrical cut?
You know what? I can't recall. I don't know.
That was where they were having a drinking contest.
And Legolas goes, I think I'm feeling it in my fingers.
Yeah.
As everyone's like slammed on the ground. Yeah, I don't know if that's...
Because elves are OP, yeah.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, aside from watching, the theatrical cut once in theaters, every single other viewing I've had has been the extended edition.
Yeah, there's no other way, I feel.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's my big movie talk. Anything else exciting going on with you?
I have been reading through the Hyperion series by Dan Simmons. That would actually be a pretty good mini-series now I think about it. In a lot of ways, kind of similar to Dune, takes place on some other planet. You got some time vision-y shenanigans going around. You got at least one big monster going around, the Shrike, which I'm a huge fan of. It's a big metallic biped. Oh, he's got 4 arms sometimes, who just controls time. So
wait, sometimes? What do you mean sometimes?
He's weird. Oh,
that's helpful. Wow, so enlightening for me, who's never heard of this series before in my entire life.
Yeah. Do you know the Canterbury Tales? Are you familiar?
I mean, I've heard of it. I don't know what they are.
It's essentially a collection of shorter stories, even though they're kind of long. It's very old, written by Geoffrey Chaucer. Geoffrey is spelt the right way, which I appreciate. And
I mean, I have heard of Chaucer.
Yeah, I'm probably mispronouncing it. It's just one of those really old stories about a whole bunch of travelers sharing their experiences, and the first 2 books are essentially that. Just all these people from all over the galaxy sharing their weird things they've gone through that all tie back to somehow being related to the Shrike and Hyperion, the planet where it's all taking place on.
Oh, so are all these travelers on Hyperion then?
They had to deal with something to do with it at some point in their life. Like, there is one guy whose daughter was an archaeologist, and she was checking out what are called the time tombs on the planet, and due to some mishap, she started aging backwards. Every day
Oh.
she would age back a day and lose her memory of the previous day. So eventually she would become a child, and then she became a baby.
So it's the worst of the Benjamin Buttons.
Yes,
You're aging
exactly.
backwards, but also forgetting everything.
Yeah. And so she's
sucks.
there with her dad. She's a baby, and he's hoping to cure her condition. And that's why he made the pilgrimage out to go see if he can finally help her. And
that's really peculiar. So, wait. So she was doing this time tomb stuff on Hyperion, I assume.
Yep.
And so then he came to Hyperion to pick her up and try to help her.
Like, they tried to help her in a bunch of different ways with modern medicine, but nothing was able to help her in the wider galaxy, because no one else knows how these damn things work, and why there's this creature called the Shrike that just seems to kill people randomly who just decide to go near these time tombs.
Well, maybe they shouldn't have drank the tomb juice.
Yeah, but it's so cool. They're the time tombs. You gotta check it out. It's a weird mystery.
I guess. So you're saying is this a worthwhile series? How long is it? Is it
4
finished?
books.
And
Yeah.
It's done?
I would say it's finished. I read the 2 books, and I thought that was the end of it. Then I randomly came across another one of the books, and I've been going through those. I'm currently on the 3rd one. So I thought it was done. It had a good conclusion at the end of the 2nd one, but I think it picked up in a good place for the 3rd.
Okay, well then, you know what? I'll add it to my list.
Yeah, you don't need more books for your list, but yeah, here's one more. One more series.
One more series, just what I need.
Yeah, and it's got some cool sci-fi, bunch of stuff like AI secretly trying to start a war between factions, and
Oh god,
Yeah.
it's Mass Effect all over again.
pretty much you can't trust AI. That's the main
why
thing
does
to
every
take
story
away.
end up being like, oh, ultimately the world will always devolve into, robots versus humans.
Because
Synthetics
robots
versus
hate
organics.
humans. They think they're better than us, and they are, but screw them for that.
Alan Turing's machine named Christopher just stomping across the battlefield via my 159 million computational deaths. Pew!
Oh, God. Good movie, though.
It was. I've seen it twice.
Good.
The movie, if for those unaware, is The Imitation Game. It's actually quite good.
With Benadryl Cumbersnatch and...
Yep.
Yeah. just
Keira
doing
Knightley.
his thing. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, is it Mark Strong?
I'll take your word for it. I am not
He
the guy to
plays-
go to for names.
No, he's the guy who played the bad guy in the first Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.
Ew, okay.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of him. He also in the second, what's it called? The Gentleman or whatever with Colin Farrell. Colin Firth. Yeah. The Country Road song when he blows himself
Okay.
up. Spoilers.
Okay, that
Yeah,
guy.
him.
Yeah,
I
okay.
want to say his name is Mark Strong. I really like him.
It's a strong name.
It is. He's a handsome man. He's a handsome lad.
He absolutely is.
Well, except in Imitation Game because they had him grow his hair out and it's very thin and it's almost a comb over, but
And in Sherlock Holmes, he had that odd tooth.
Yeah,
That's
but
all I remember about the character.
I feel like that was fake.
Well, yeah,
'Cause,
of course.
that was a distracting tooth. I did
Believe
not
it or
like that
not,
at all.
some things in films are fake.
Nuh-uh. When you die in the movie, you die in real life. God.
They've just been
That's why
cloning
we're-
actors for years and years.
Well, that's why we just constantly rotate through new actors. Like, come on, get it right.
Oh, the vats of Sean Bean alone. Just
Name one other movie that Keira Knightley's been in. None.
Pirates
That's right.
of the Caribbean.
No, you're wrong.
Or am I? No, I'm thinking Natalie Portman. They look so alike.
They do. They're pretty interchangeable.
Yeah.
Just like Ben Foster and the other guy who looks like Ben Foster.
What a perfect example.
I tried hard. What can I say?
You obviously did. So how about you? Any books in your life treating you good?
I mean,
Or treating you
so-
bad, either way?
I've been reading, or I finished reading, The House of Night and Chains. And you hear that and you're like, that sounds like, a spooky mansion horror.
Sounds
book.
like a BDSM house, but all right. First
Oh,
impressions are
okay,
different for
okay.
everyone.
I mean that works too, I guess. I don't know if you know this, but I read a fair bit of Warhammer novels.
I am shocked.
I know, surprising. So Games Workshop and Black Library is the publishing house for Warhammer and such, did a very smart thing in that they've been diversifying the types of stories they're telling like crazy. So initially you just had Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k, and they were fine, but they get kind of samey after a while. And then they came out with the Horus Heresy, which takes place, I want to say, 10,000 years prior to 40k, and that was really successful as well, and everybody really liked it. And so then they're like, you know what, we're going to actually just, instead of just doing, stories in our game world, let's just do, individual genres. So they started up what they call Warhammer Horror, and they also have, Warhammer Crime as well. And so the House of Knight in Chains is literally just a horror story that someone wanted to make up and turn into, take, Warhammer and put it over top of a horror story. And some are better than others, and I would say that House of Knight in Chains is not one of the better ones.
Okay. So because is this set in, like, the Warhammer fantasy world? Now,
that's the great thing about, the fact that they're just, focusing on horror or crime or what have you, is that you pretty much get free reign. You can choose. Some books, like Dark Harvest, take place in the fantasy world, which is now known as Age of Sigmar because they rebooted the whole thing. And some, like House of Nine Chains, is in 40k. So essentially our protagonist is a noble who, because he wasn't in line for the throne, got conscripted into the Imperial Guard and went off to fight in the Imperial in the wars, essentially, that are constantly taking place. So it starts off with him pretty much coming back after rehabilitation after a battle against the Tyranids, where he got his arm and leg ripped off, and pretty much his entire unit died.
That tracks to what I know about Tyranids.
Yeah, and so he gets pretty much put in front of, a giant board of, high-ranking generals and such, and they pretty much go to him and say, so, hey, guy, you kind of suck now, but we still have use for you. So it turns out the planet that you're from hasn't had a governor in God knows how many years, and the quotas that need to be maintained and sent to the Imperium throughout are also not up to par. You're not hitting quotas, and so we think that corruption is rampant on the planet. So we're going to send you there as the Lord Governor, and your job is to root out this corruption, get quota back up to speed, and make everything hunky-dory. All right. So he gets back there, and he pretty much has to go live at the old Lord Governor house, which, spoiler alert, is haunted. And so
hauntings are a thing in the future.
I mean, hauntings are something that exists just all around in Warhammer, right?
Because, I guess. With Psyker and Warp and...
Yeah, well, even in fantasy, you have the vampire counts, like Raising the Dead and Banshees and all that.
Wait, is it technically the same universe between the two?
I don't know. Okay. I'm sure someone else does. I think the assumption is yes, maybe,
you
perhaps.
Got chaos, and they have the same gods and whatever.
I don't have, the full lore across all these 40,000 years memorized, but I do recall that them talking about how sometime back in God knows how many thousands of years, the Emperor walked on Earth and pretty much took over everything, so I don't know if he is from fantasy or not. Maybe. I don't know. But
so big fat maybe. I can work with that.
Yeah, but ultimately the point of the story is there's two plot lines. The first one is that his job is to root out corruption on the council that exists on his planet and, get rid of it. And the other one is, my house is haunted and spooky stuff is happening and I'm seeing my dead wife and all this stuff.
All right, so political intrigue and a bit of haunted house.
Well, it's more like a lot of haunted house and a little political intrigue, which is the reason why I'm not super high up on the book. Okay. Because this big overarching plot, which is that the Imperium is literally focusing on this planet. The planet is essentially getting audited, which is a big thing, because if there's, stuff not going on, they will just kill everyone in the high-ranking positions and replace them. So they don't want to do that yet, obviously. They'll just get the quotas up, it'll be fine. But if, something terrible is happening, then they just kill everyone because they don't give a crap, right? It's the Imperium.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to focus on, and it falls by the wayside really quick. By, a third of the book, you're only focusing on the haunting. It's just really unsatisfying, because, spoiler alert for this book that honestly I don't think anybody should read, It turns out that there are two houses. There's the house of our protagonist and the house of the people who were in power before his family rose to power. And currently that other house controls the council, and they're the ones who allowed the corruption to spread and the black market to thrive and to not fulfill their quotas. But it also turns out that our protagonist's family, however many generations back, pretty much made an agreement with the gods of chaos and the warp in order to get, their riches in order to take over the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other family, which still isn't a good family, pretty much they say that their mandate is to watch the protagonist, and because they know that they're all corrupt, and so they're the bulwark against the evils that are coming from this house. But at the same time, it's like, no, you guys are also corrupt. And so the guy goes crazy, goes to fight out the house and all this, and he comes across the leader of the opposing faction, and she pretty much goes, oh, hey, dude, yeah, you're the evil one, not me. And, turns out that, yeah, I need to change my ways because it turns out I was, too lax in allowing this corruption to spread. So I'm going to fix that. You can go off and die now. And that's the entire purpose of the plot, which is him rooting out this corruption gets solved just like that. She's like, oh, what's that? The Imperium is, focusing on us. Okay, I'll just stop then. Okay, bye. I'm sorry, your book is terrible.
Riveting. All right.
Yeah, well, it's just an unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah.
Learn to write a book, please. But yeah, so hopefully the next ones will be better. Maybe one day we'll find out. I don't know.
Hey, power to them for branching out and trying new things.
That's true. I mean, so just a quick recap. So we still have the fantasy stuff, because a lot of the fantasy stuff was really successful, like Gotrek and Felix. So that's still being reprinted. And now they also have the Age of Sigmar stuff, and so that's pretty much your fantasy. And then you have the Necromunda books, which is another tabletop that they do. There's also the books for Blood Bowl, because Blood Bowl is another one of the games that they, put out. And then you have Warhammer 40k. You have the Horus Heresy, which I believe has ended. And now I think they're also putting out Warhammer 30k. I'm not sure what that entails. I haven't read any of it, but there's that as well. And then, of course, you have your Warhammer Horror, your Warhammer Crime. So, there's so much stuff. So if you have any interest in any aspect of, Warhammer or anything, you can pretty much find a book for what you're looking for, which is really nice.
I want more comedy. That's all I ever really liked from 40k. Caiaphas Cain.
Yeah,
guy
Caiaphas
who doesn't want to be there, just doing his best to try and be lazy and escape from the situation, and ending up looking really good in the eyes of his people he's commanding. Yeah, those are a good read, gotta admit.
Yeah, the thing is that everyone focuses on the fact that, the catchphrase for Warhammer 40k is, in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war. And so it's like, oh, everything has to be grim, dark, and gritty, and this and that and the other thing. And there is a lot of that, obviously, and a lot of it's really good. But you want that levity, you want a bit of comedy in there, which is, I think, and they haven't figured that out yet, which is baffling to me, because of their, I'd say, 4 most successful series, 2 of them have comedy. You have the Caiaphas Cain series, which is just hilarious because he's always falling into all these problems that he's trying to avoid. And then also the Gotrek and Felix, which is the most successful Warhammer Fantasy series that was ever put out, is also comedy. It's pretty much these guys just, a dwarf and a man, the dwarf searching out his death because he's a slayer, so he wants to die in honorable combat, and then the human Felix just getting dragged around because he promised when he was drunk one day that he would record his doom, being like, this sucks. I hate this. I don't want to die, but I have to follow you. Oh, God. And it's like, yeah, having, some comedy in there is good. It lightens the mood and it makes everything else better.
So that is your take on, wait, what was the full house? The House of Knight in Chains.
Yeah, The House of Knight in Chains. By David Annandale. Well, you don't need to know his name because don't read his book.
I'm sorry, David.
Yeah.
You'll never hear this. All right. So yeah, apart from the books, anything else? Gone over movies, games, books. What else is there to consume?
Well, do you want to hear about my quick, terrible escapades in getting some Magic the Gathering secret lairs?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so for anyone who's unaware, Magic the Gathering, the small indie company, recently started, well, not recently, it's been a couple of years, started selling what they call secret lairs, which is directly from them you can buy specific magic cards that they put out. And they usually have, different artwork and, different frames and all that. And some of them are terrible. I would argue perhaps most of them are terrible, but some are actually really good value. And so I have bought, depending on how you want to count them, anywhere between 3 and I think 7 secret lairs. So I bought one when it first released because it was a lot of commanders. So like the Dragon, I want to say Reaper King, and I can't remember the third one. But they're really popular commanders that were quite expensive. And I wanted to make, commander decks with them. And I was like, this is actually cheaper for me to buy it through you, even with, conversion and shipping.
Now, for people who don't know, what is a commander deck?
Well, so it is a 100-card singleton format. And so you find a legendary creature. You know it's legendary because it says legendary in the bar. And pretty much, let's say I pick Perforos, God of the Forge. He's a red legendary god. But what that means is that I can only put cards that are red or artifacts. Artifacts kind of get a free pass in any of this. But if any card is any of the other 4 colors, so white, black, green, or blue, in any way, shape, or form on the card, they are not allowed to be part of this deck. So a lot of really popular commanders, if you want to have arguably, quote-unquote, the best cards, are 5-color decks. So these 3 commanders that they were selling are 5-color commanders. So you can put them in and then, get all 5 colors in there. But yeah, so it's pretty much 100-card singletons. You can only have one of each card, and it's a multiplayer format, so you can play it with multiple people. You start with 40 life instead of 20. However, if your commander deals damage, it counts as a separate damage meter, which is the commander damage meter. And I believe if you do 20 damage to someone with your commander, they die. So it's currently the most popular format of Magic the Gathering. Just because, honestly, I think the diversity of the format, the cards that you're allowed to put in, you don't need to, shell out an arm and a leg if you want, to have a fun deck. You can literally do it with just, $50 as opposed to, say, $1,000 that, their competitive formats have. But yeah, so it's a fun format. So I bought that one, and then for the longest time I wanted to make an Oops All Gods deck. Now, roughly, this is how convenient this was. So roughly 2 weeks before they announced their Gods Secret Lair, I went to my local game store to look for some of the gods because I wanted to buy the gods. Now, I ended up buying a God of the Polis for $5, which was pretty nice, but all the other gods were either way too expensive or they just didn't have them. Like, right off the bat, Mogus, for me, I think was $30, Perforos was like $50, and you're like, that's a lot of money just for, 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I'll come back later. So they announced their Theros God Secret Lair. So this was, I think, for $200 or something, you could get all 5 of the secret lairs that they put out. It gives you a discount if you buy all of them. But yeah, it gave you currently one of every single god. And so when you, again, looked at the price comparisons, it was way cheaper to just buy these secret lairs than to buy them from your local game store by a sizable amount. So I did that. Now, they're really bad at fulfilling orders, so it took, maybe 6 months before I actually saw them, and they were in foil, and their foiling process is really bad, so my cards are curled, and currently are sitting under about, 50 pounds worth of books, just to try to flatten them out. And they've been sitting under those books for over a year, and they're still not perfectly flat.
So I have a feeling that after a year of trying to fix it, it's never really going to get fixed.
Yeah, it won't. And so every couple months, I just, flip them over and try to flatten them the opposite way. And yeah, it's really unfortunate. But the thing is that they recently announced, where recently was back in July, the final secret lair that I ever bought, or currently have so far bought, which is the Praetor Secret Lair. So years and years and years ago, back before I came back to the game to start playing it, they did a set called New Phyrexia. It was like Mirrodin and Phyrexia, where you had these creatures invade Phyrexia, these like weird robotic / like oily creatures which corrupt everything that they touch. And the 5 big bads were the Praetors. Mm-hmm. Now, again, the Praetors are, because they're so old now and they're also mythic rarity, they're expensive beyond belief. But more importantly, they made for the judges only a judge promo of Elish Norn, who was the White Praetor, in the made-up Phyrexian language.
Now,
And it
the one
looked
thing I know
great.
about Elish Norn is there is a surprising amount of people that think she is hot. Now, I'm not following that train of thought, but
I mean, your mileage may vary.
she is a combination of exoskeleton and fleshy bits without skin.
And then she has like a weird like chitin head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
yeah,
don't know what that says about the fan base of Magic the Gathering, but there is too many people that love that card, particularly because she's, I don't know.
I mean, I'm all for Shieldred, who's like half, female body up top and then full on weird like spider creature down below.
I mean,
giant mouth.
You're obviously
Yeah.
a leg man at that point. So, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, but so pretty much this card, and it still is a ridiculous price, but it was like $300 for this card because it was in the Phyrexian language, and everyone had been saying forever like, we want these. And so what they did is they made a Phyrexian secret lair where it's all 5 of the Phyrexians, though technically there are now 6 because they made a second Vorinclex in Kaldheim, but he's not part of that. Though he probably should have been. But they sold it all, and it was like 40 or 30 US dollars or 40 for foil.
Yeah.
And so I went with foil because I'm an idiot. Because I thought, oh, hey, they'll fix it this time. No, they don't fix it.
No.
So anyway, so I bought this. And I bought it in July, and then literally the next week, they send out this mass email saying, hey, guys, there's way more demand than we were expecting, so we're going to postpone this by, like, I don't know, 6 months or 4 months or what have you. You're like, oh, good, great.
Like,
So-
on one hand, supply chains across the world have kind of been devastated by that virus, but also it's cardboard, so...
Well, also on the other hand, they announced this in July, where everyone had already known supply chain issues were a thing.
Yeah.
So if they were announcing, you'd think they'd have a fix for it, but they didn't. Instead, they just announced it, sold a bunch, and said, we'll fulfill later. So, finally, in November, I get an email being like, okay, we're charging you now, and we're going to ship it to you. And they send me and then I get another email saying, okay, it's shipped, and they send me a link. And so I, for 20 days, I click this link, and it opens up to, I think it was like USPS or something, and it comes in, and I get just, an error saying, no activity, no record of this. And I'm like, okay, like 3 weeks and they haven't, shipped this package yet? Because it's quite common when you order something from like a large store, they'll give you the shipping information as soon as they print the tracking label. Haven't actually given it to the FedEx or USPS or whatever they're using, but you just get an email once it has a tracking label printed out. So I figured that was the case. No. So after 3 weeks, I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I go to the email where they sent me this bogus tracking link. I go, and it's like, if at the bottom it says, if you have any questions or concerns, click this FAQ. And it's a hyperlinked FAQ. Click FAQ. And it brings me to a 404 page. Page not found. I'm like, great. This is A1. What else would you expect from, small indie company Wizards of the Coast? So then I have to manually go into the secret lair page, like a site, look around, find another FAQ, check it, and there I get a link to then send a question or whatever, like you have questions or concerns about anything of your products. So I fill it out, send off an email like, hey, I got this tracking number and link for it. It's not giving me any information. It says there's no records found. What's happening? Now, what is really nice is I got a message back the same day, and it pretty much said, hey, that link leads to a different provider that we are not using, which means that they sent me a link which went to the wrong fulfillment people. So instead of USPS, it was some other company. And they went, here's the proper link. I was like, oh, okay. So I clicked that, and the miraculous thing was it worked, and it was like, your package is being delivered today. I was like, oh, that's actually really great. The one issue that I have, though, is not them. They never once said, oh, sorry, we sent you the wrong link. All they said was, that link leads to the wrong provider or the wrong fulfillment company. I was like, but that's the one you sent to me. How am I supposed to know who's fulfilling it? Like, no, that's your job. You can't say sorry? Oh, no, I can't say sorry. I was like, Bunch of dinks. So anyway, I got the package. I open it. Of course, they're Pringled, so they're going to join the pile. We're going back in the pile. But I will also say that they're beautiful cards. Like, the art on them and the Phyrexian language is great.
Are you happy with your purchase?
I mean, if I ever get to play Magic the Gathering in physical form ever again, in Commander with anyone,
yeah.
I mean, probably, but at the same time, I'll also feel really bad because I can probably only use them as commanders, because if I try to shuffle them into a deck, I'll be able to immediately look and go, there's the card. So I'd give it a 50%. I'll give it a... You all know that you should buy non-foils. You should just buy the regular cardstock because it will be flat.
Oh, but they're more rare if they're foils.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that you're sitting there and you're like right now, their prices are nothing. Like, I'll be honest, if you want these cards and you didn't buy the Secret Lairs, now is the perfect time to go on, I don't know, any site that you use. I mean, I'll throw out Card Kingdom, though we're not affiliated with them. I have used them before and they were fine. But I've checked there, and you can buy pretty much all of them from anywhere from $18 to $10, which is really cheap, especially because in 6 months or a year that price is going to skyrocket. Like, again, it was the same thing with the Ur-Dragon River. I only bought these cards for myself to play with. I don't buy to resell for mad stacks like some people. But for example, I recently checked the Ur-Dragon, which was selling for $10 when that Secret Lair first came out. And it's now selling for, $65. That's why everyone's buying foil, because the markups are there. Just if you want to play with them, just buy regular, guys. Don't be like me. I'm an idiot.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, so what about you? Have you done anything exciting?
No, I am living this pandemic like we were told to. I am staying inside. I rarely go outside unless I'm walking my dog. And, yeah, I don't know, man. I bought some canned haggis recently. That's
no,
not.
You didn't.
I absolutely bought some canned haggis because I went to the store.
With you?
I am adventurous when it comes to eating. I am told.
No. Oh God, no. Have you opened it yet?
I have tried the same brand before, and while it tasted of haggis, it is definitely nothing near the actual thing. Now, for those who have never tried haggis, and you're just off-put by the idea that it's a bunch of organs ground up and shoved into a sheep's stomach, dare I ask, what is a sausage? Is it just a bunch of meat that you shove in some other organ's meat? In that situation, it would be the intestines. Is that really so different? Are you really so grossed out by it being slightly bigger and from a sheep? Yes, you are missing out, my friend. It is delicious. I absolutely love it. And while the canned stuff is not as good, it does taste of the thing that I like. And it was worth buying, and I will die on that hill.
I don't believe you for a second, because I have had haggis at your house, freshly cooked, and yeah, it's delicious. I'm not gonna say it's not. You don't really think about what it is, but you eat it, you're like, it tastes like meat. It's great. But I'll go and buy a hamburger, and I'll be like, oh, this is a fresh hamburger. Smells like hamburger. Tastes great. I'm not then gonna go, let me go buy this canned hamburger in a can, open that soggy sucker up, plop it down in its jellified form on my plate, go, this is slightly reminiscent of a hamburger. Sure glad I bought this.
There is a slight difference between a canned hamburger where you shove it bun and all. Bread is not meant to be canned. Meat has been canned successfully for many, many years. Haggis is just yet another meat, so why not can it, and why not eat said canned meat? I say there is nothing wrong with it. Although it would be better if it was fresh, and I will absolutely agree to that.
And how's the smell?
When you
pop that can open, did it permeate the room? That's what I need to know.
It smells of haggis. And while I thought it wasn't too smelly, my wife might feel slightly differently, as she does about many of the weird things that I eat.
Yeah, because you are some sort of savage who walks into a store and goes, you know what I could go for? Some canned haggis. Which not only is the fact that it's haggis that's canned, but it's the fact that no one else is going to buy that, meaning it's been sitting there for God knows how many decades. Because
hey, it's
no
canned.
one goes
It's
to a
fine.
store.
Don't worry about it.
No one goes on and when they look at their grocery list goes, oh yeah, let me have canned haggis on there. Like, no. There's like one person, and his name is you, who actually goes to a store and goes, time to pick up some of that good old canned haggis.
I don't regret my decision in the slightest. But
yeah, well, when you die, I'm going to write on your tombstone, I do not regret my decision, hashtag canned haggis.
Please don't put a hashtag on my tombstone. That's all I ask. Everything else is fine.
No, you're going to take that hashtag and you're going to like it just out of spite for you eating this.
But, I mean, if you go to a store and you see some weird flavored ice cream, say, are you telling me...
I walk away from it like a normal person.
You will never try jackfruit ice cream, cheese ice cream?
No.
Oh, God, what else have I tried? Taro, absolutely delicious. It's probably one of my favorites.
No, I'm going to walk there like a normal human being. I'm going to go, you know what I really like? Pralines and cream. So then I'll open it, grab my pralines and cream, a tried and true flavor, and I will go home and eat it and be happy.
But then you don't know what the other ones taste like. Like, you find a rosewater ice cream, and you're like,
tell you what.
Never even heard of that.
If I go to the ice cream store, I don't know, Baskin Robbins, even though I don't think it exists here anymore, and I see some weird flavor, I will go, you know what? I will get myself a cup, and I'll have a scoop of something I like, and something I would like to try. And I go, and that way I'm the amount that I'm paying towards something I might not enjoy is very small. But if I go to a store and I'm like, oh yeah, here's a 4-liter tub of God's green earth, let's buy that and give it a shot. Like, no, thank you.
Soylent glacé. Yeah, but what if you
exactly.
like it?
Well, if I like it, then when I go to the store, like, if I like something that I try at, at the ice cream store, then when I go to the grocery store and I see a large tub of it, then I can go, yes, now I will buy it because I know I like it.
But also, you're not going to find the weird flavors in a Baskin Robbins or whatever mainstay ice cream store.
I'll have you know that the ice cream store that I went to had, delicious flavors like root beer. I was like, I've never heard of root beer ice cream. I tried it. It was good. Now, granted, I've never seen root beer ice cream in grocery stores, but if I did, I would know I like it.
But that's the thing. Like, you go into a grocery store and you find flavors you're not going to find anywhere else.
You go to the weird, like, Chinese medicinal markets to go and grab, like, weird things like chicken hearts.
You're not wrong. But...
Exactly. So that's where you're finding these weird flavors. Average Joe is going like, I'm going to go to Safeway and get regular human food.
But the Chinese markets are so much better and cheaper. I buy my meat. It's labeled as meat. It doesn't say what animal it's from, but it's much cheaper than the other one. So why shouldn't I just keep buying that?
Hey, remember that time when the UK had that giant horse meat scandal in all their regular grocery stores?
I hear horse is delicious.
I know, but take that and multiply it by 1,000, and that's your mystery meat.
So I ate a little horse. Who hasn't? If you ate IKEA meatballs, apparently you're
eating what you hope was horse. You don't know.
I wasn't planning on it, but here we are.
That's why when I go to the Chinese markets, I just get the bolo baos.
Bolo baos are delicious.
Yeah, exactly. Like that little pastry with like the cookie crust on top, man. Yeah.
Ooh,
maybe have some custard in there. Yeah, it's good. And it's not mystery meat.
No, you gotta go to those ones in a sketchy back alley. They got chicken feet hanging above everything, chopped up ducks. If you can get like duck tongues, just little individual tongues, really good.
Wow, that sounds horrific, and I'm just imagining you walking down the street with like a little fanny pack filled with duck tongues, and you take one out every now and then to give a nibble.
Oh, I could dry it. Yeah, I could make jerky out of it.
Oh, God. Here, have some duck tongue jerky, my good friend.
Actually, I have never seen, like, beef tongue jerky. Oh, I should make this happen. I could make this happen. Oh, you have created a terrible idea in my head.
Next thing, you're going to be combining, your weird fungus with your jerky.
Why not? Mushrooms and jerky.
Like, mystery mushroom surprise jerky. You never know what you're going to get.
Oh, I actually like the idea. Mystery meat jerky. Which animal is it?
No,
Have a nibble
please.
and find out.
You won't even know. How many people, when they try some random meat, can immediately say, "Oh, I know what this is"? No, everyone's gonna be like, "Is this beef?" You're gonna be like, "No." Okay, is it pork? No. Guess again. And then you get the weird stuff. You're gonna be like, "Is it bison?" You're like, "Oh no, not yet." You're like, "Ostrich? No." And then you're in danger territory, right?
Venison?
Because then you're gonna be like, "Is it crocodile?" Maybe.
I have had crocodile meat actually about a year ago.
I've had it too. When I was in Australia, they had a crocodile meat pasta. It was pretty good.
All right.
And I also ate kangaroo sausage, which was very bland.
I mean, that just makes sense to eat the kangaroo. They're everywhere.
Yeah, and I had some smoked camel meat with like a dry rub, and it was actually really good.
This was all in Australia?
Yep.
Damn. Lots of choices.
Yeah, went out onto some camel farm in the outback, let us ride around on camels, and then we came back and we ate them.
Now,
Which, it was great
not
for me
the
because
same camels you rode on, I'm assuming.
No, though I really wish it had been, because our camel was a jerk and he kept turning his head back to bite my knees. And not like little love bites, like full on like grip and tear.
Oh dang.
Yeah, I was at the front too. I was like, this sucks. I hate this.
I mean, it makes sense to have camels in Australia, though.
Yeah, just have wild camels running around. Go and round them up in your helicopter.
As you do. Who doesn't have a helicopter lying around?
Yeah, I mean, who needs school when you have a helicopter? That's the real question.
I feel like you should have some sort of school to have a helicopter, but yeah, why not?
No, like, okay, but we had like, I don't know, some like 30-some-odd-year-old guy who was leading the camel pack, and he was telling us about how, every season he just gets up in a helicopter and they go and find some wild ones to wrangle. And I don't remember how the conversation happened, but he's like, yeah, I've never been to school. Like, never been to elementary school? He's like, nope. I was like, how? Isn't that illegal? Does Australia not force kids to go to school? But yeah, no, that's what this guy does.
Rounds up camels.
Yeah, like, I can only assume he was like some weird 3-year-old Aussie running around the outback, wrangling camels. Who needs school? Not him.
I mean, all you can really do in Canada is moose. You can round up some mooses. Can't really ride them.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not going to go anywhere near a freaking moose.
No, they're terrifying and gigantic.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people don't realize how freaking huge they are.
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly not go near a deer either, because that would probably kick me in the face and it would hurt really bad.
Deer, fine. You live near tons of them.
Yeah, exactly, but I don't go near them. I don't run out into my street going, "Oh dear, please come bask in my glory. I'll feed you some mystery meat."
Don't feed the deer meat. They'll get a taste. They'll want more.
Oh god. Wake up in the middle of the night, just like deer heads poking through the window. You're like, I'm on the 2nd floor. They're evolving. They're building ladders.
They're just standing on top of each other. And not just 2 deer. Yeah. This is 3 deer tall going up to your window.
Exactly. Oh, God.
Like you thought the bears were bad. They're just doing their bear thing. Eating your garbage, or I guess stray cats is what happened to a friend of mine in Calgary.
That's actually quite surprising that a bear caught.
Actually, I think it was a coyote.
Yeah.
They weren't sure, but
yeah, the coyotes are wild out here.
Yeah.
We lose cats every day to them. From my house, you can actually hear them when they howl at night, like, or yip or whatever, like trying to hunt other like cats and crap.
And they sound terrifying.
Oh yeah, it's bad, and they can like jump the fences quite easily.
Of course. They got long, gangly legs. And, like, wolves are majestic when they have their howls. Coyotes sound like something's dying. And I guess they're doing it when they're hunting and stuff like that, but...
Well, I mean, initially, when they're I'm no expert, but the consensus from what I've heard is that they, like, yip and crap when they're, actively hunting, but once they find something, they just go, like, straight silence.
I mean, that makes sense.
And then they just run it down.
Good old coyotes.
There you go. Just avoid it, like the plague.
Avoid the coyote like the plague?
I mean, technically, there's a lot of stuff I'd like to avoid if it was like a plague.
Well, we have a plague. What are you going to avoid?
Well, currently I'm avoiding people.
I mean, that's a good choice in a plague.
Yeah, even not in a plague of people sounds like a good idea.
This is just a good excuse.
Yeah, how many people can you say you really like on a good day? Maybe 3.
I got enough. I got some peeps that are all right, but yeah, I don't know my neighbors' names, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to. Screw that.
Yeah, just be antisocial. That's the ticket to life. That's the key. Everything's online these days. Why do you got to do anything in person? Absolutely.
Stares at his Pringled magic card sadly. Yeah, why would you play anything in person?
No, just play Magic Arena, which I have deleted from my computer.
That's a good idea. I still have. It's still on mine, but I booted up to just kind of change the daily every now and then to see if I can get 750 gold if I ever come back. But yeah, mostly I just avoid it because it makes me a sad panda. Makes me a worse person, is what I feel. Yeah,
I think so. I just have an addictive personality. That kind of game just hits that special part of my brain that makes me think, ooh, I should just play another one. Oh, it'll give me more gold. Oh, if I play a little more today, I'll get more rewards. It'll help me play more of the game and be even more effective and win even more. And it's that whole Skinner box thing. Like, I can't play mobile games. I just get too into it.
Monkey brain. Satisfied.
It absolutely is monkey brain. And I can't help it. And I know that about myself. So I just have to take it off my computer, or else I will just play the crap out of it every day. I'm never going to really spend a ton of money on it, but...
luckily, I have never spent any money on any mobile game, and I've played 2.
I've done it here and there, but I've never been a whale. Like, I might do the starter pack thing, where it's like just a really good deal to give you a taste of those gems.
Yeah, just a taste. Just a taste.
Exactly.
I hear you like duck tongue. Here, it's just a taste.
They know too much. Yeah, like what was that game we played years ago? It was one of the ones where it's pay to win and you get a picture of a character in an RPG that you set up to fight stuff.
Chain Chronicle.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
There's tons of games like that.
You got me addicted to that one.
Yeah, right?
It was really bad. When they ran their events that happen every 3 hours or whatever, I was there. Like during the night, I would set my alarm to go off every 3 hours so I could wake up for 5 minutes just to play it and then go back to sleep. I was really addicted. The one nice saving grace though is that I guess Westerners don't really do the gotcha spend money on mobile games, so they shut down the English servers because no one was paying any money for it.
You're just doing the free-to-play stuff.
So that's how I got out of that game, is that they had literally shut down the servers, and then once that happened, I was like, I can never play another one of these games again, because I love collecting characters and, upgrading them. I mean, again, it's the reason why I really love Mass Effect and why a lot of people love Mass Effect. The best part of the game is going throughout the universe, getting your crew members.
And scanning planets and getting all the resources. Just making your numbers go up.
It's
definitely not the best part.
You're over here telling me that you like the Mass Effect 2's resource
Oh no, I hated it. I absolutely
everyone
hated it. It was terrible.
It's terrible. It was the worst. Oh my god. Okay, phew. Saving grace there. For a second I thought, oh god, I thought I was gonna have to just banish you forever. Here's the pilot episode.
But...
It's now just the Grim. The great is gone. He's no longer great.
What a great show that would be. Just the Grim. You complaining about something for 2 hours or whatever.
I can like stuff now and then.
No, you can't. It's in your name. Yeah. It's in your name that you picked as a gamer tag back when you were a teenager. You can't get away from it.
Hey, I'll have you know that I like 2 things that we talked about today. That's like a 50% like, right? Like I like Dead Space 2.
Not bad.
I like Dune. Yeah. That's like 50%, because I hated my book and I don't like Secret Lairs. 50%. That's a win.
Yeah.
What's 50% in grading? That's like a C.
No, that's like a D-. That was a fail in high school.
Yeah, but in university that's a pass.
Yeah, that's true. That's a degree right there.
Yeah, you know things are going well for people when 50% in high school is a fail, but it's a pass in uni.
Yeah, Yeah, I got through that. I got my piece of paper, and I have not done anything related to it. So
Perfect. That's all you got to do.
You just got to get through it and get that piece of paper so you can say you have it.
So you can frame it, put it in the corner of your room, and let it collect dust.
Oh, it's in a corner somewhere. I actually have no idea where that is. It's probably
I know where mine is. In the corner, collecting dust. But yeah, I think we successfully completed a show.
Yeah, I think we said some things for a length of time, and that qualifies as a show.
Yeah, and hopefully we upset everyone who listened to it.
Yeah, so they won't come back for a second one.
Yeah, exactly. Everything you like, we hate. Just go in with that in mind, and it turns out fine.
All right, so I don't know how to sign off this sort of thing, but thank you for listening, however you found it. Click buttons, listen to it again. Why not?
Yeah, he's been great.
He's been grim.